So right now, I am joined by the president of the Real Estate Developers of Nigeria, the Southwest region, the person of Debo Adejana, who is also the CEO of Wealthy Points Limited. Good morning, Mr. Debo. Thank you for being on the show this morning.
Good morning, Margaret. Nice being with you. Good morning.
Do not forget, we are streaming live on Twitter. I would appreciate you to send in your thoughts, send in your comments, and also request to speak when the floor is open for Twitter audience to speak. We'd love to hear from you, and it will be a pleasure. Okay, firstly, let's just look at the issues surrounding the real estate sector, the fraudulent practices in the real estate sector. Now, from your assessment, what do you think is responsible for this increasing cases and fraud in the real estate industry?
So, what we are experiencing in the real estate sector is not strange, and because nature avoids vacuum, actually. What we lack majorly that is resulting in some of the things that we're experiencing, the fraudulent practices and all, is lack of industry regulation, proper industry regulation. And once there is no regulation, even if you have the laws, you have the rules, you have the standards, if there is nobody enforcing or ensuring that standards are being, followed, rules are being followed, you definitely would expect that there will be defaulters and people that will be running foul of that law. And that is majorly what we're experiencing. If we have a properly regulated industry, we would have a better experience. That is what it is. And real estate is a very, very huge sector in the economy. And it still baffles us that we have not been able to see the need for a serious regulation in that sector. Lately, there has been some attempts, but I dare say that we need to do more. We need to do more from the private practitioners' angle, and we need to do more from the government side. Take, for example, accounting practice is being regulated in this country. Of course, legal practice is being regulated. In fact, a number of the professional practices or services under the real estate space are being well regulated. Architecture, engineering, land surveying, all of those. But the business aspect of real estate itself, which is real estate development, is left to anybody and everybody that either has money or does not have. Anybody can just come in without any standard, nothing to fulfill. Agencies are another kettle of fish. Anybody can be an agent in this country, Nigeria. That should not be the case in a regulated environment. And so, if I can just stand up and become an agent, if I can just stand up and become a developer, of course, I can do anything. Nothing mandates me to be able to go through any particular set of training and take particular set of exams to assure or to ensure that I'm able to imbibe what is necessary to be able to deliver value in that industry. And then nothing also ensures that even when I'm in practice, I'm doing the right thing. So we cannot be surprised with what we have then.
All right, now you mentioned the lack of regulation. That brings me to my next question. There's currently, or rather with the proliferation of the real estate companies in Nigeria, what are the steps Nigerians must take to avoid these scams? Because you mentioned that a lot of persons just come up and become agents, which is not supposed to be because the industry currently lacks regulation. So what can be done and what exactly is stopping people from coming together to regulate these things to avoid or to nip the scams in the bud?
Okay, so the association that I belong, which is a trade association as it is right now, is Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria. Now, we've been trying for the last few years to ensure that a regulatory law is passed, that ensures that anybody practicing as a real estate developer is not just licensed, but trained before they even get licensed. And also, we ensure that while they are licensed, they are maintaining that license, meaning that they are carrying on their duties as is required of a developer, to ensure that customers or clients or prospects or citizens' investments are protected. So What needs to be done is the kind of thing that Redan is doing, to try and push for a bill that would ensure that we can regulate. The industry needs to be self-regulated, but you see, we need to be armed with the appropriate instrument of law.
Oh, there's currently a housing deficit in Nigeria, and we are not sure if there is a data to back that up. That the question is, why is it difficult to have a comprehensive data in its housing deficit? And really, how can these things be resolved?
It's because of the fragmented market also. Data aggregation is a bit difficult because the market is so fragmented, and the people playing it don't, some of the people playing it don't see the need for the aggregation of data. You know, ordinarily, if it were a regulated environment, just from the records of government or various state governments, in terms of people doing documentation, people doing building permit approval, and moving to site and all of that approval, they will have sufficient record as to housing production in each state. But in a situation where people dodge corners and avoid to do the proper thing. And so that is why we have that difficulty. The fragmented industry is still a problem. So researches have been conducted over time. Food soldiers have been sent to the field to try and gather data, but the best we still have are not adequate, as it were. And I agree with you that data is very, very important. We just showed the figures of 20 million, 22 million, 18 million, 17 million housing deficit around. We just throw that around. Nobody has been able to really substantiate that figure as to us being able to work with it as a country. I know that for Lagos State, some detailed research were done at the time, and Lagos State came up with a deficit figure of 3 million in the state. So you can imagine if Lagos State just has 3 million, and Lagos State is the most populated state in Nigeria, and probably the one with the highest deficiency. So if Lagos State is talking about 3 million, if we go by that experience, we may not really have up to this 20-something million we are talking about. So if we are already running with the wrong data, wrong research information, it may be difficult for us to really solve our problem. Yeah, and I totally agree with you.
Right, but then what's the association doing to help this become better? I did for the Southwest Association of Redan.
Thank you very much. So for the Southwest, we have things in place to ensure that our players, our practitioners, okay, people that are registered with us, supply information of their production on a yearly basis. How many lands, maybe plot subdivision project you did, how many projects, housing projects you started, you got approval for, how many you delivered and handed over and stuff like that. We collate these figures year on year from our members. And that is also to be done, to the best of my knowledge, even at the national level. But you see, this is the problem. Here lies the problem. Very few people that call themselves developers are a member of our association. So if we have 10,000 developers in the country and probably only 1,000 are members of REDA, of what use would our figure be in trying to interpolate or in trying to interpret what is happening in the larger sector, So that is really the problem we have. A lot of the people that are members of REDAN largely play in the mass housing sector, low income housing sector, or affordable housing sector. There are other players who are playing big in other sectors of the economy and meeting the needs of those economies. If we can't have their figures, our figure will not really solve the problem. But I know that Redan as an institution, even in conjunction with the current Minister of Housing, carried out a detailed research about 4 years ago, okay, as to housing deficit, this same housing deficit, trying to really determine the numbers, and we did our best with that research, but I can tell you that we still didn't achieve something that can be said to be conclusive because of the deficit in participation in terms of numbers of people that are coming forward. The sample size wasn't just good enough to be able to say we have a conclusive figure.
All right, now you mentioned that very few members are developers now are members of Redan. And now that brings me to this question. You know, in Lagos, we have a lot of people talking about housing scams. I personally have been a victim of that, and it was from a developer. So for things like this, is there something that can be done from these people? Now, the case is still in court for over 2 years, and nothing seems to be done about it. It keeps going on and on and on. It feels like a recurring decimal. So for associations like this, you know, it can misrepresent the Redan, and well, really, what can be done, or what do you think the association can do to ensure that these members, that are these people who front as members, scamming people, can probably be put aside, or you know, look for a way to solve this issue of housing scams in the country from the Southwest region now?
Thank you very much. So the number one thing you said earlier when opening the program is that, in the real estate sector, it is caveat emptor, buyers beware. So we usually want buyers to do their due diligence when buying, okay? Simple fact check at the Redan's office will tell you whether the person you are planning to deal with is a registered member of the association or not. You know, when you have a challenge with any registered member of our association and you report it to the association, we take it up. We take it up. We have a committee, a disciplinary section of the association. Though it's a trade association, but since you subscribe to be a member, it means you subscribe to our codes and ethics and things like that. And if you are hearing, we will definitely call you to order. So I would encourage people to do their due diligence. That's number one. Number two, just fact check to see if these people are registered members of the Real Estate Association of Nigeria. And if you have any problem with them, make an official complaint to the office, either state level, zonal level, or national level, and that will be seriously looked into. You can be rest assured of that.
All right, thank you for the assurance. Now, just as we wrap up this segment, what should be the priority? What for Redan now? What should be the priority for the incoming administration when it comes to housing? Very important, because a lot of Nigerians want to know. People living in Lagos State are really tired of getting scammed or probably paying fees that are exorbitant. You pay for a house and then the agency and agreement is something way higher than what you actually paid. So things like this, we need answers to things like this. So for the incoming administration, what should be done, or what's the expectation of Redan for this administration coming in now?
Thank you very much. We've made our official recommendation. We've made our recommendation officially to the incoming administration, and we intend to also closely monitor and pursue to see performance. Some of the things we expect are the fact that, one, rule of law. If rule of law is enthroned in a country, it will go a long way in helping not just the real estate industry, but every aspect of our existence as a nation. If I know that if I invest in this country, in this state, in this local government, and anything goes wrong, I can go to the nearest police station and report any criminal act, and it will be picked up, and the person will be properly prosecuted, and it will not take forever. So if all of this can be streamlined in terms of the rule of law being enthroned, that is number one. Number two, infrastructure enhancement. We need government to lead the charge when it comes to infrastructure creation or provision in this country. We're not talking about them engaging in building houses. That may not really be necessary, but they need to provide appropriate infrastructure, open up areas with roads, with proper drainages, with electricity coming in, and you would see those places develop. Also making access to approvals, access to land, titling, and documentation a lot easier and less cumbersome. Removing the bureaucratic bottleneck that people get to face when they want to get involved in some of these things. So if I know that getting land, access to land would not be as difficult as it is right now in terms of having to cope with the shenanigans of the Omoniles, having to cope with delays and exorbitant rates that I have to pay when I want to perfect my title or get approvals and stuff like that. And some funny practices of some government, any government officials, are also curtailed. It will go a long way in ensuring that I have ease as to access to land. And then I have ease as to access to approvals, documentation, and all. So I can properly deliver on what I've promised to people. So we are really big on asking government to provide enabling environment first, before we talk about housing proper housing provision, because all of this will then impact on material prices, either the accessibility to them or the affordability and stuff like that. It will go a long way. And these are just the basic things. We've documented a number of things that we want the administration to look into. And I'm sure that we'll pursue the happening of those things. Thank you.
Yeah, before I let you go, I'm very glad you mentioned the Omonile shenanigans. Now, I just want you to react to the issue that's been happening on social media. Social media users, Nigerians, have called out some real estate companies. The issue of Omonile thing, I pay for a land, I'm not getting allocations. It takes so much time, even after going through all the cumbersome, the stress and all of that has to deal with this. And I'm still having to drag them on social media. So I could have a lot of them to talk about here, but let me just get your reaction to it first of all.
So, like I said, we started by saying the kind of things going on in the industry. Why is that so? And I talked about regulation. Okay, if we can get regulation in place, it will help a great deal. For some of these developers that you have talked about that are our members, we've engaged, okay, both with their subscribers and with these companies, and we are making sure that they deliver on their promises. Otherwise, they would also face the music. Okay, we are not encouraging anyone defrauding anybody in any way. However, as you've said, we play in a market. When a developer tells you there is no Omonile Wala on his site, what he's saying is that he shoulders that responsibility, and that is the kind of service he's also offering for which you are paying. But the truth is that the Omonile Walas are there, and if he cannot resolve it, if they now become bigger than him, it will definitely cause an issue that would affect his subscribers. So some of these experiences are not any distant from this kind of situation where a developer is having serious issue with the Omoniles, and he's gone to court, he's gone to police, and there is no headway. The matter is there forever, and people are paid, and you are in business. You need to deliver certain things to them. Of course, as an association, we are offering all the support we can to genuine developers who are having genuine issues, and we are helping to appeal to their customers to ensure that they just give them some time. These things will be handled, and the hearing the persons or people or family or Omonile will be dealt with appropriately. It's just the unfortunate situation we found ourselves. This is not to say that there are no developers that are outside there defrauding people. A number of these people are not our members, okay, like I've said. And if you have anyone that is our member, approach the state, the zonal office or the national office, and we will deal with any hearing member of ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Debo, for sharing your thoughts on this. We appreciate your time on the show.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And thank you to your viewers also for the time. Thank you.